what do you expect the rare 2 days without a game to look like for your team tonight?
I don't know. And part of that is, the routine gets kind of changed. And our routine was we just played every second night and sprinkled in some back-to-backs. And you worry about that kind of exhale at home. But I would take it. And I'm not sure how it manifests itself tonight. Again, we're in a different routine is such an important, I don't know, it's just such a fact of our lives that when you move it to 6, the morning skate's different. Everything gets changed a little bit. So I'm not sure what benefit we're going to see that's going to be obvious. I'd like to think that we're going to be able to play with, a different kind of energy. I thought we played hard in that second Toronto game. I liked our compete and our effort. I didn't think we had a lot in the tank, but we spent what we had. I'd like to see it manifest itself in a little bit more sharpness, a little bit more quickness, a little more finish, those kind of things. But I truly believe that had we not had this, Blake, you would have seen it in the next 3 weeks, and it wouldn't have been a positive for our team. I think we were just getting to a threshold. It was a month, but our schedule said we were doing almost 8 weeks of it, 7 kind of weeks of that schedule. I didn't like where this thing was going to take us. You look at what Montreal's going through. That month that they have is exactly like the month we just had, and they're talking about how difficult it is, except we changed time zones 6 times and played 12 of those games on the road. I didn't like what it looked like going forward at all. I would never have said anything because you can't give that excuse. So I would say, I'm not sure. I think I believe it'll make us better relative to what we would have looked like had we not got it.
We'll go next to Ken Wiebe from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weber.
Morning, Paul. Just with the option, what can you tell us about the lineup and goaltending plan?
It's all the same.
We'll go next to Scott Billick from the Winnipeg Sun.
Morning, Paul. A question about it. I think both your players already have talked about playing the right way. I'm curious to know what that means for a coach. I mean, it seems like it's a buzzword in the NHL at times. I would like to know what it means to you, and does it change per player?
I think probably if you boil it down, it's what you do without the puck in terms of playing the right way. There are some right way ideas with the puck. You don't want to be at the end of your shift after you've stayed out too long and turn a puck over at the offensive line. Like, I think probably the right way is the smart way. So most of that is measured as when you don't have the puck. And if you don't have the puck, then you would say all players are the same. Now, that how they're able to defend, it will be different based on skill set, but their mindset, their skill set will change it, but their mindset shouldn't. So, you win those one-on-one battles. You're underneath the puck. You have, when you don't, a defense first approach, and you're involved, right? So the perimeter guys, maybe that, what's that old adage? Like, good players cheat, great players anticipate, right? Like, there is some anticipation that goes in the game where a break will happen because you knock a play down. But if you don't knock that play down, it's coming back your other end. So you'll either be really, really smart and really skilled and knock it down, or you'll be a guy that cheats to offense and the other team gets a chance. So playing the right way, especially noticeable without the puck, how hard you're battling, how hard you're back checking, how hard you're finishing checks, how many one-on-one battles you win and come up with the puck. It's all the hard parts of the game. Are you blocking shots, those kind of things.
Next to Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Paul. You mentioned the last time you played the Senators. I think it was mid-February. You kind of teased a little bit before the game that you were worried that team might get hot. Now, you end up winning that game, and they don't go immediately hot, but they follow up, I think, four wins in 5 games after that. And given just the time frame and this whole season, you haven't seen them in that long. Where do you see Ottawa right now from when you last saw them to where they are today?
Yeah, I think I made that comment because when you watch them play and they had some losses, but they weren't far from winning. And that would be true of their whole year. They beat us at the end of a game once, but the games that we beat them, I think I'm going to say maybe the 3rd game that we played them, it wasn't particularly close. We kind of took the game over in the second. Other than that, and, you watch the Montreal game, they generated enough to win. They played very, very well in that game. When you watch them play, I haven't found them to lull very much during there. Their play's been very consistent, and really what's happened maybe to get hot is they got a little bit of goaltending, and I thought in stretches they didn't have that. So this team is better than I think. They got off to a tough. Their game didn't match their record early, but then and when I say we, the hockey world would decide, okay, they're going to finish last. You know, you look at the calendar and you circle them, well, you should beat them. But the games don't ever look like that, right? They've got enough high-end skill and they've got enough hard-working veterans, and you know, they've done a great job getting a consistent game out of the team. They play fast, they play hard, they finish checks, they do all the right things to win, and they're just, you know, slightly under maybe experienced to do that with their top end talent, but they're not very, very far off. And anybody I felt that went into the game, if their opponent didn't play the game that you expected their opponent to play, they lost, right? If you're not good at what you're good at, they're going to beat you.
We'll go back to Scott Billick from the Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Paul, just kind of sticking on that. You know, you're a team that's fighting for first place. The Senators likely aren't going to make the playoffs. Is this a team that you have to beat, though? Like, regardless of the fact that they're, you know, they come to play and they get paid like every other, you know, player and all that stuff. Is this a team, for a team like yours, that you kind of have to win? These are the games that you need to take 2 points from when you're trying to battle for first place.
I'm going to say that if you're 6 back, you got to win all of them, right? You're going to have to. But I think if you think that, if you looked at, we got to beat these guys, you open yourself up to a far better chance of not beating them. And I'm not talking about the pressure that you put on yourself, but that opens the door for you disrespecting that team, saying, we are so much better than this team that we should beat these guys tonight. So if as a group, you can't find a way to respect their team, then you better find a way to respect the game. And the game says the team that works the hardest usually is going to win. The team that plays right, alluding to an earlier question, is going to win. Then if you hold yourself to that standard, then you could say, yeah, I mean, everybody beneath us in the standings, we absolutely have to win, because I mean, we're 6 out. We're not a point out. There's a gap there, and it's a gap to the first place team, which means they're going to win at 650 straight out for the rest of the year. So the games against them are going to be must-win games if that's your goal. So I understand what you're saying, right? But I don't find much of a difference in this game between our games against Vancouver, our games against Calgary. The games against Montreal have been unusual, to say the least. The schedule has had an effect on the Edmonton games. So sure, again, I mean, we're going to have to win at a real high rate to catch Toronto. And that means, but I don't feel a difference between playing the Ottawa Senators and this is going to be taken wrong. I'm not disrespecting Calgary or Van, but Ottawa's a good team too. Like, I just don't look at them, and maybe that's why we're 4-1 and not 1-4. Like, they're a good team.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks very much, Gregor. Sorry if you called me before. We had a power outage out here, so I got zapped for a bit. Paul, I was just kind of curious with what happened with the schedule starting late last week, how much that altered your plans for the practice that you had set up for April 18th or 19th. How much did you change the to-do list when you finally had a chance to practice yesterday? And in going forward for some of the practices, have you altered that list a little bit?
Yeah, so we just wouldn't have practiced until, and I wasn't sure whether we were taking 2 days off before the Toronto series on our next 3-game block. I very probably would have taken 2 days off. We still have to come in and test and rehab and do those things, but off the ice completely, and maybe no meetings to get that mental break. When you look at the month of March that we had, you take travel out and our home games out, they were home with their families 2 nights, like 2 days where they didn't have a game, or we weren't traveling back from Calgary, or we weren't just out of town. And you have to also factor in the better halves of each one of these players isn't out in the community. The girls aren't hanging out together. They aren't getting their social, like they're very, very, our families are very, very isolated along with the players. So finding home time is critical. And then this block is going to allow us just to get, one more home night in a really, really difficult stretch that we're in. So we were 30 minutes yesterday. We won't skate tomorrow, and we'll be 30 minutes the next day before we get back on a plane. And I am, priority one is winning hockey games, keeping players ready to win hockey players. Priority two, then it goes hand in hand. But part of that, a bigger piece of that now is getting them some connection time with their families.